Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Mr. Bago's market analysis and trading update. Today, we have so much to talk about. So, last week, we made another record high in the market. You guys, we did it, right? If you were a bull, you obviously being pretty happy. I couldn't think of any reason not to be a bull right now. But as we know, well, the stats we can kind of learn from the stats that okay, making record high for 25 30 times in a year is not unheard of, but it is pretty rare. And market is actually at a level where I would be a little cautious. I mean, I'm not saying that market is going to drop instantly, but this is where you probably won't see like a huge percentage of gains in the market. We might even see some, like consolidation, maybe a little bit of a pullback in the market in the next few weeks. So, with that being said, how and where will we be looking for any opportunities? So, again, if the market is going to stay choppy for some period of time, you want to be looking for areas where you can see some strength, or sectors that being underperforming. And if we are expecting some level of mean reversion, that might be where value is, right? If you're a swing trader, if you're a long-term investor, that's where you would look. But as a trader, I think if you're a bull, if you like to go long in the market, you can still see a lot of strength, right? There's no weakness. Like if we're talking about Tesla closed at 52 week high in positive gamma as well. So if you're a trader, that might be where you wanna just continue on that momentum. But I do see some sectors that are showing a lot of strength, also some sectors that are showing some weakness. So let's talk about those sectors. So SPY, um, I mean just before the close on Friday, some selling on the calls, which means at the time of the recording, future is down for just a little bit, right? I think this is where market is being a little indecisive, but definitely not a lot of power from the bulls to take the market any higher than it is today. It might take some crazy upbeat on earnings. We do expect some earnings still coming through this week. That is Broadcom being one of them. If you're playing chips, you want to be looking out for that. And so, if the market is staying this way, I mean, this is by no means like every dip is getting picked up, right? So this is not weak. It could get weaker, but this is not bad, right? So let's talk about the sectors because we like to talk about top-down approach. If we don't know where the market might go, we just might have to find out from the certain sectors that are performing within this market. One I would like to point out is XLI. So that is industrial fund, guys. So at the end of the week, you always want to be looking out for weekly close. What do you see here? That is bad, okay? Like obviously that means someone's trying to get out of this market, right? You see that huge run, some profit taking, obviously very weak volume. That's why we picked it back up, and another one on decreasing volume. That is showing you that hey, there are still buyers, but not as much. And sure enough, immediately after that, we had a pretty bad sell, and the volume is high, and you don't see any wick or anything like that is telling you that hey, this volume right here, 32 plus million volume, they were just getting out. They're getting out. This market is too high. It's too way too far away from 20 weekly moving average. People are not getting the kind of upside anymore. Switching over to daily, we are seeing pretty much the same thing. Pretty weak buy, and we just continue to sell, right? And even on Friday, that volume was pretty big. If we want to get more idea of this, right? I mean, you don't really see that on 4 hour. I guess the second half of Friday was pretty quiet. So yeah, we just been trending below all these moving averages, right? And you even see a cross over here. That is definitely not a bullish sign, right? So I think most notably, I was looking at Caterpillar. I mean, it is a great company, right? It is a great long-term hold, but we are seeing some short-term weakness in the stock. So yeah, I think if you're looking at 2 hour, this is the trend line for you to follow. Each time we touch that, we just slow down, and again, like we can't even close that candle green, right? As soon as we touch it, it got sold. Um, I think the most optimal entry would be another reject, but also if you want to play a different way through this trend line, it is considered more upside to come. I don't believe that. I think there is more downside to go. If we want to see how this stock is corresponding to XLI, yeah, you see this weekly is really bad. I mean, maybe not as bad as XLI just because of the on the volume side, but there is definitely some weakness on Caterpillar, right? If you're moving over to daily, that's even more clear. Um, so yeah, if you're holding short, know your stop loss. Your stop loss is gonna be above this trend line, and your profit taking. This could be your first level, just in case this is actually not a bearish sign. It could be a fake dip. But yeah, if the stock price doesn't react to this support level, continues to dip, then you can even consider setting your profit taking just right above like this market bias level, which is around $371. I mean, that is just my 2 cents. I don't think it is wise to short this market now, but Caterpillar over here and WXI, the whole industrial sector doesn't look very strong to me. Not as strong as it was a couple weeks ago, anyway. All right, so that's your short idea if you're thinking about shorts. Um, I still wanted to talk about semi. That is a very good weekly close. Okay, and you'll see that most of the semi names had about the same setup going into the end of the week. AMD not as much. This looks awful lot like Nvidia. But the stock I was getting to is ARM, right? So obviously there's no discussion needed. This is looking as good as ever. Higher highs and higher lows, and then pretty good wick, and then that is what you want to see on a weekly close, right? And we have over here BX Trender on MACD. We have just turned the color, so buyers are accumulating. You have to believe that. So we want to find a stock that's really highly corresponding to what we see on this sector ETF. You going over to ARM, I mean monthly, I don't believe we pointed out on the channel, but monthly real good, right? Let's talk about monthly and then we going over down to the smaller time frame. It will show you more evidence of what we're talking about. I mean, monthly That is indecision from the market. Next one, okay, a more clear direction is showing, but it is a lower high and lower low, but you have to see that the volume has been declining. And sure enough, right after, ARM was able to pick it up from there. So from weekly, again, if you're looking at this versus SMH, it's probably even better than that, right? I mean, heard some people talking about ARM was showing a lot of weakness, but no, because at the end of the previous week, it was already pretty much determined by the market that okay, this week, if market wouldn't crash, ARM would perform, and it did. And if we wanna if you're a scalper, you want to be using smaller time frame, it also works, right? Just expecting the higher highs and higher lows, and the low on this wave is actually higher than the previous one. So there's pretty strong buying over here at ARM. Moving over to 4 hours, that's exactly what you wanted to see. See, we made a higher high on this pattern. Now we went down, sure, on declining volume, but you always have to give more weight uh, to the first one because this is before noon on that day. Typically, we see more volume going there. This is not a sign to tell you that, hey, the selling has concluded. We want to wait more. This is where you can scale in on your positions, but I will wait for some other signals to really determine that hey, this is done, right? The selling is done. We have found the bottom for the second wave, and now it is time to go long again on ARM. We opened, obviously that was bad, but hey, we're still above all these moving averages. Now we give it another go. Look at this, right? There's no more volume. If we're on the downtrend, which is if you're using like a smaller time frame, maybe around 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you can clearly see a downtrend. But if we're on a downtrend and we see something like this, which is to tell you, hey, the downtrend is done, right? Like no players are getting into the market to push it down any further. So if we're not going down, the only way to go is up. And you see this. And again, very bad selling. Like I would even I can even be very bold and and say, hey, I think tomorrow is gonna open gap up. So again, if you see a gap down open tomorrow, that's a gift to pick it up here for ARM because this is looking good, right? This is looking as good as ever. You can expect ARM to make another higher high to go above $144.54. I think that's a very good possibility. So again, when we're talking about this, I think ARM and Semi will be performing, but industrial not as much. Also, I wanted to point out one big tech. So if you're looking at the flow, when I saw this, I was like, okay, big players are getting into this market to find value, because I think Google is not as much as Microsoft, like a pretty beat down name out of all the mega magnificent seven. So when you see this kind of flow on the market that has just hit all-time high, this is a good sign. This is telling you there's rotation going on right now in this market. Obviously, we saw Amazon. We didn't uh, get to do a deep dive on Amazon, but we did mention that the chart was looking awfully good. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, but Amazon can be seeing some weakness in the short term, in my opinion, because it has run up for way too much. Now Google, look at this weekly, right? If you've been following along, you know this is the kind of strength that I would say that would work more than 85% of the time. So that's good weekly. Let's see if it's also good monthly. Yes. Right, we see this kind of wick, right? 183.79, 184.03. We did manage to take out that resistance, but pretty weak. But again, this candle also tells you that we are not able to push down any further. So essentially, this is a higher high and a higher low with a lower volume on the downside. This is where you would consider playing Google in December. Weekly also good. Daily, as I recall, also pretty good, right? I was entering Google somewhere right here, right? Obviously found support on 20 days moving average, and this has been a downward channel, and then that is the trend line we're following. Broke above it on a determining volume, and then we sold down to retest, couldn't even reach 20 days moving average. Some people were probably very happy about this and entering a long position just right before the close. Also, lower volume here on the downside. And the very next day, market was still, they wanted to test 20 days moving average to see what will be the reaction down there. And this is the reaction you got, right? So this is pretty good. If you're into, playing big tech, other than Meta, sure, you can probably still have some more room to run, just like Tesla, but I will be doing Google because I do think Google has more room to run if we're, comparing this to Meta, which had just made a pretty decent new record high, right? We picked it up the second half, some people were trying to sell it, instantly got met by bull demand, right? So that is Google, guys. Market is, I don't even know what it is. It is way too strong, but it has hit a pretty critical level. I think before we see another higher high, we may see some choppiness in the next few days. So keep in mind that you don't want to be just a bull, right? I'm sure there is a different kind of opportunity that you can play, which we did point out on Caterpillar and XLI industrial sector. That might be the short if you're thinking about short. But if you're thinking about going long, I think Google is the has the best setup out of all the big tech. Um, Semi is going good. Broadcom is gonna provide more color on how that will look like in the coming weeks. But for the time being, I think ARM is looking even better than the rest of the sector. If um, yeah, Nvidia is also a pretty notable name in semi. If you wanna take a look at it, if you want me to do a full detail on the next video into Nvidia, please leave a comment down below. I will make another one just uh, specific to Nvidia as well because I think there's a lot to talk about. Anyway, that is the update from me today. Make sure you subscribe and like the channel if you really do enjoy the content. I will see you again tomorrow. Happy training. And in the meantime, if there is a question, let me know. Thank you. Have a good one.